All right, let's talk about something really important today. We're going to dive deep into the painful but ultimately incredibly powerful journey of the family scapegoat. From being the designated problem in a toxic system to finally reclaiming a life that is completely 100% your own.
Wow, this quote from a survivor, it just hits different, right? It totally reframes the entire story. We tend to think scapegoat means weak, but so often, in these family dynamics, it's the complete opposite. The child who gets targeted is often the strongest one, the one with the most empathy, the one who just can't pretend that what's happening is okay. It's a role you're assigned, not a role you earned.
So, that's the big question, isn't it? Why does this role even exist? Because it's not random, it serves a very specific and very toxic purpose. And to really get why, we have to pull back the curtain and look at the whole system they're stuck in.
Think about these family systems. They're often described as these really closed-off, almost cult-like environments. There's a secret set of rules, a reality that everyone is forced to buy into, and is usually all orchestrated by a dominant, often narcissistic parent.
Okay, so here's the core engine behind all of this. It's a psychological process called projective identification. Sounds complicated, right? But what it really boils down to is this. A parent has all these feelings they can't handle, their own shame, their own rage, their own sense of being bad, and they basically just dump it all onto one of their kids. That child then becomes the container for all the family's problems, so everyone else can pretend to be perfectly fine.
And this process creates this really bizarre split in the family. You'll have one child who is put on a pedestal, the golden child. They can do no wrong, they represent everything good about the parent. And then you have the scapegoat, who is forced to carry everything that's considered bad. And listen, this has nothing to do with who these kids actually are. It's all about what the parent needs them to be.
So let's get real for a second. What does it actually feel like to be in that role? It's a special kind of hell. It's this confusing, disorienting reality where you are constantly being blamed, misunderstood, and told that your version of events is wrong. It's not one big blow-up, it's a constant, daily drip of poison.
And to survive this, people often fall into these very specific roles. You might even recognize yourself in one of these. Maybe you were the caretaker, always trying to fix everyone's feelings. Or maybe you were the rebel, the one who's acting out just proved you were the problem child. Each role helps keep the dysfunctional family stable, but man, the long-term price is so high. We're talking chronic anxiety, deep self-hatred, you name it.
Now, how does this system keep you trapped? Well, it's through this dense psychological cage. They call it FOG. It stands for fear, obligation, and guilt. Fear of their anger, fear of being abandoned, a crushing sense of obligation to the family, and of course guilt, making you feel like you are somehow responsible for everyone else's misery.
And this is the really cruel part. After years of this death by 1,000 cuts, the abuse moves inside. You internalize all those messages. You develop this relentless inner critic in your own head that just continues the abuse 24/7, long after you've even left home.
But then, something happens. For a lot of people, there's this powerful moment of awakening. Maybe it's one injustice that's just too big to ignore. Or maybe it's just this slow, dawning realization that the story the family told you about yourself, it's just not true. The whole illusion starts to crack.
And just when you start to pull away, you can bet the system is going to try to pull you back in. They call this hoovering, and yeah, it's named after the vacuum cleaner for a reason. It's a desperate attempt to suck you right back into the drama because a dysfunctional system needs its scapegoat to function.
But here's the cool part. These tactics, they are so predictable. Once you see the playbook, the sudden charm, the guilt trips, the fake apologies, the empty promises that things will be different this time, you take back your power. When you can name the game, you can't be played anymore.
Okay, so understanding all that is huge. It's step one. But real freedom, that comes from actively healing those deep, deep wounds. It means literally reprogramming your mind and your nervous system after years and years of trauma.
One of the most powerful tools for this is a therapy called EMDR. And what's really interesting is that it's not your typical talk therapy where you have to relive every painful detail. It uses things like guided eye movements to help your brain reprocess traumatic memories so they don't have that same emotional gut punch anymore.
And it's not some kind of vague, mysterious thing either. It's actually a really structured, 8-phase process. It's a clear roadmap that takes you from preparing you with coping skills to actually reprocessing the memories,
all the way to checking in on your progress. It makes healing feel possible.
And look, the science on this is solid. A big meta-analysis in 2022 found it has what's called a large effect size for trauma. That number, 1.28, that's just a fancy scientific way of saying, wow, this really, really works.
But healing also happens in the small moments, right? Outside of a therapist's office. When those emotional flashbacks hit and the shame feels overwhelming, simple things can be a lifeline. Calling a friend who gets it, cuddling with your dog or cat. That safe connection is the direct antidote to shame and isolation.
And this is what it's all about. This is the final and most important stage. Because recovery isn't just about getting over the past. It's about getting to consciously and deliberately build your own future, based on your own values.
A massive part of this journey is building what people call a chosen family. This is your crew, the people you pick, the friends and partners who give you that mutual support, that deep respect, and that unconditional love you were supposed to get in the first place.
Okay, so how do you find these people? Especially when your normal meter might be a little off. You start looking for green flags, signs of safety, consistency, people who show up for you. And there's this powerful idea that like attracts like. As you get healthier, you just naturally start drawing in healthier, more supportive people. It's amazing how that works.
You know, at the end of the day, after everything you've been through, the most powerful act of rebellion isn't getting even. It's not revenge. It's just living well. It's building a life that is so full of joy and purpose and connection that the past just doesn't have a hold on you anymore.
Look, that family system, it was a training ground. A brutal one for sure, but it forged a strength in you, a perception, a resilience that is unbreakable. Remember that goat from the first slide? The strongest one? That's you. The past is not your future. So the real question is, with all that strength, what are you going to build now?